Hello guitar junkies, a warm welcome. And well, sometimes fairy tales are true. This is Marcus Deml and this is the story of my 63 Strat. Well, I'm actually fortunate that I have two of these. You know, the white one, but for the last few years I had this red one too. And usually what's really interesting, all the major guitars, I didn't buy them in stores. I guess they just come to me, and it's a wonderful experience. So this one was actually kind of funny and makes me smile every day I think about it. So you know that I like to wear hats. I'm visiting my friend Uwe, who owns the store Papenhut in Hamburg. And we're talking guitars, we're talking hats. He's a guitar player too. And he says, well, this friend of mine dropped off this guitar that he had in the cellar. For who knows how many decades it was there. It's in pretty bad shape. But we want to know what it is, Marcus. Could you help us? I go, yeah, of course I can help you. I don't know much, but I know quite a few things about guitars. He pulls out this amazing case. My heart rate already goes up. I see the Star Club logo, and you know, think of Deep Purple, the Beatles, all the important bands that made, you know, Hamburg a really important city in pop music history. So we open up the case and my face just drops out of disappointment, really, because what I see is a very poor side, a completely devaluated red Stratocaster. And I'm looking at it and said, you poor lady, what did they do to you? Who did all this stuff? So the first thing that I've noticed on this poor baby, there were two amp switches sticking out of this. And yes, they are in the wood, so they chiseled away a little bit of wood to make two Fender twin or amp switches fit there for out of phase. It had 3 strings on it, and I'm trying to move, I think it was the G string or something, couldn't move it. Checked the other tuners, couldn't move it. Looked at the neck, rusty frets. Some of them I could pull out by hand. I look at the neck, totally bowed, just, you know, I mean, twisted, impossible to play. Look here, tremolo arm broken off. Of course, the rest of the tremolo arm was in the block. Fantastic. So I took the screwdriver and took the whole thing apart, and my smile came back because, number one, June 63, everything correct, original pickups, original parts, dated of course, original tremolo, you know, the pickguard with the 2 holes or the switches, original, everything. But I saw, bummer, it's a refin, but that's okay. This must have been done about 50 years ago. Probably was already red when it was on stage in the Star Club. The restoration of this thing was a nightmare. So I made a deal with Uwe. We worked on this guitar for almost a year. You know, getting the tuners running again, taking them apart, getting the rest of the vibrato ball out of the block. Removing this was easy. Closing it, well, it didn't work out as good as we should have done it, but I can spot it from a mile away that this is my guitar, and this is why it's called Red Eye. Refretting, of course, no big deal, but the neck, Jesus Christ. We put it in the oven about 6 times, you know, and what you do if you have a warped neck, you shouldn't do it. A qualified repairman, luthier, should do that. You put it in the oven for a few minutes at fairly low temperature. I think we did about 80 Celsius. You know, there's stories about Rory Gallagher, you know, coming off a flight and backstage, putting his faithful Strat against the heater and stuff like that. So it would come back again. But we had to do it about 6 times, and after that we left the neck back on for about a month because it was still working, all the moisture was coming out, it was just a nightmare. But after almost a year, the lady was working just like a dream, and this is my favorite vintage neck, I have to say that. Head hold, my other 63, is terrible to play. Has even we measured, we plaqued it, and well, we plaqued it, we put it in the plaque machine to analyze it at one time. It has a 6.1 radius, you know, so it's like Quasimodo. This one, I don't know, it had the original frets when I got it, so I assume it's 7.25, something like that. So, and the size is very good. It's a B-neck. It's just wonderful. And what's even more interesting, that the guitar really came back to life after being played for a few years. So when I got it, it was better than every new Strat or custom shop Strat. It was already, you know, it was one above, you know, especially in the recording studio. And you've heard it, it sounds pretty good. And even though you're listening on YouTube, which is only about 5% of the sound quality that I'm listening here in my home studio, you probably guessed it, it sounds pretty good. By the way, I'm going into a 50-watt Marshall on the clean channel. Gain is coming from the Gorilla, and I'm adding reverb. That's all for the sound. And it's mic'd. But this guitar is improving every year, because I keep playing it, and yeah, it's just, it's really becoming something, which makes me come to the conclusion that guitars need to be played. Vintage guitars that are not being played, well, you just might want to buy a new one. I played a 54 Strat, even with original strings, not a dent in it. Well, it was just a Stratocaster. So every guitar, even if it's not a vintage guitar, you have to play it as many hours as possible. The instrument's going to change, the wood's going to work, the, you know, pickups are going to change. You just will end up with something special. Anyway, this one is a real keeper, and I will hopefully still have it when I'm 90 years old, with a big white beard, sitting on the porch and playing the blues. This was Marcus Deml. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, love and peace. Marcus Deml, peace out.